Welcome, welcome, everybody. It is great to see you tonight. My name is Rabbi Devorah Lynn, and I am the co-chair with Mirala Goldsmith of Jewish Earth Alliance. And I know that there's extreme weather all over the country, coast to coast. So you're stuck at home, and this was a good thing to do, right? So no reason to go out. So if you would like, please put your name and where you're calling from, and if you belong to a group. And you can say something about the weather in your area if you'd like, make a comment. And we want to welcome our our individuals. Let us know if we can find a group for you, because we know that numbers count when it comes to Congress. Working together has exponentially more power than individually. I have a bit of a hoarse throat, so I'll be sucking on throat lozenges all night, but it's not contagious, so we're in luck. Our focus tonight is on our lobby day coming up for Tu Bishvat, the holiday of the trees, January 25th. We always begin our meetings with a spiritual reflection, followed by speakers on our legislative priorities for Lobby Day. I'm afraid tonight we won't have time for questions to our speakers tonight, but perhaps we can connect you with them if you have a burning question. Let us know that in the chat. Then we're going to review our priorities and instructions for lobbying our senators, and we're going to have breakout groups by state. And then we'll all return at the top of the hour, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, depending on where you are. Is there anybody from Alaska or Hawaii? Raise your hand. Anybody see that? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. One of these days. And we'll come back to reflect for a few minutes, and I will close out our meeting a dozen or so minutes after the hour, depending on how fast everyone talks. But our Lobby Day team will stay on to answer any and all of your questions. So stick with us as long as you can. Every moment holds surprises, skills, and meaning for this sacred work that we are doing together. So I think we're ready. Let's get going. Are you ready? If you're ready, give us a wave. Are you ready? Ready to start lobby training? So let me introduce Rabbi Fred Sherlander-Dobb. He is the rabbinic consultant of COEGL, the Coalition on the Environment and Jewish Life, and has served as the rabbi at Adat Shalom Reconstructionist Congregation in Bethesda, Maryland, since 1997. He has helped Adat Shalom become a widely acclaimed green spiritual center and has been active within and beyond Adat Shalom on social and economic justice, LGBTQ and gender equality, and progressive Israel education and advocacy, as well as his work on eco-Judaism. Rabbi Dobb,
honored.
Please.
Thank you.
Us.
Thank you all for being here, for being part of this. We are moving the needle and we are doing it together. It means a lot to see so many faces and so much ruach. To state the obvious, it's cold across most of our areas. Even those of us in places like Texas are suddenly plunged into it. Important to say two things about that. Number one, as I'm sure most of you know, this is consonant with the climate models. It is often called global weirding rather than global warming. The average trend is hotter, and it also drives extremes in both directions. The other is, I have not been able to find a source. If anyone else does, please let me know. But supposedly one of the Russian non-Jewish literary greats, I've heard it attributed to Leo Tolstoy, knew something about Tu Bishvat, which was kind of back in vogue at the turn of the last century, and said something like, there's hope for a people so long as they celebrate the rebirth of trees in the middle of a Russian winter. So Uh, Look outside, appreciate, and stay warm, not too warm. Set your thermostat reasonably, and just be part of it. So obviously, we're in the month of Shvat, the roughly the coldest month, 1 month after solstice, and it is exactly now that we celebrate the rebirth of trees. And most of us know the classic texts around this. In Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 19 and 20, when you make war against a city and besiege it for a long time, lo tashchit et etza, you must not destroy its trees. For you may eat from them, but not destroy them. Ki ha'adam etza sadeh, for is the person a tree of the field? Whatever that means, to withdraw into the city gates before you. We often stop there with first Adam Etz Sadeh, this incredible lyrical notion that people and trees are essentially similar. And the idea that we can understand trees as being in the divine image is a core piece for us of being able to acknowledge everything has its place. And we need to ensure that that place continues. The second half, though, chapter 20, verse 20, is a little bit trickier because it then separates the so-called barren tree, Ilan Srak, from an Eitz Pri, a fruit tree, as if the fruit tree has greater value. In a short-term economic marketplace sort of way, it's true. A fruit tree is going to bring in greater GDP that year than a pine tree, say. When it comes to ecosystem services rendered, when it comes to anchoring a global climate and preventing runoff and creating habitat and shade and microclimate and human enjoyment and so much else, then we need to begin to rethink even the traditional categories. So, a blessing for all of us to see it all as whole. A blessing for all of us to be the tree, a little bit of a Lorax to speak for the trees, but also a person of Torah, ki ha'adam etz hasadeh, because the human is much like the tree of the field. And from that place, let us do all that we can to preserve the anchors of our ecosystem, to move away from an extractivist mindset and into one of a web of creation. Trees anchor much of that ecosystem. It is up to us to keep it whole. And that includes the personal actions, eating lower on the food chain because the meat industry is responsible for so much deforestation, thinking carefully about the source of everything from our office paper to our toilet paper. All of that is true. And at the same time, the real way we're going to move the needle is together through actions like this lobby day. So for the trees and for every person out there, especially the most disadvantaged and vulnerable who are at greatest risk from the challenges until we address them, let's turn to addressing them. Happy Tu Bishvat.
Beautiful, just beautiful, Fred. Thank you so much for that inspiration for this meeting and our holiday. It's a new look at the holiday. The world would wed, as the phrase goes. Our first, so we'll move on to our legislative speakers tonight. Our first legislative speaker will be introduced by Dr. Phyllis Blumberg. Phyllis is a member of the Jewish Earth Alliance Steering Committee. She's an educational consultant, an assessment professional, and mover and shaker behind Pennsylvania's transition away from fossil fuels. Phyllis is the co-chair of our virtual lobby day, and she will introduce our first legislative speaker and then speak herself on our lobbying effort on restoring America's Wildlife Act and environmental justice for all. So please, Phyllis, fill us in.
Thank you, Rabbi Dvorah. We will be lobbying on 3 separate pending climate-related legislations. Our first speaker will address the Farm Bill, and afterwards we will talk about the other 2. I am actually thrilled to introduce Peter Lehner, who directs the Earthjustice's Sustainable Food and Farming Program, where they are developing litigation, administrative, and legislative strategies to promote a more just and environmentally sound agricultural system and to reduce health, environmental, and climate harms from production of our food. We have lobbied in the past for climate resilient aspects to be included in the Farm Bill. And sometimes we say, why are we still doing it? And I want to quote Peter because he says, agriculture has an enormous contribution to climate change and to health. But it was only after I listened to one of Peter's recent interviews that I realized the Farm Bill is the most important climate bill that this Congress, or maybe any Congress, will pass. For example, I learned that concentrated animal feeding operations are the country's largest sources of hydrogen sulfide and ammonia, which are poisonous gases. But the EPA historically exempted them from reporting their poisonous emissions under federal statutes. Therefore, they're not counted as part of our emissions. How are we ever going to reach our goals if we don't count them? So I'm sure that Peter will help us to be more effective lobbyists next Thursday on behalf of climate-friendly agriculture. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And it's great to be here with you. Can I quickly become a co-host so I can share my screen?
Mirla, you'll need to do that.
I should have done that earlier. Sorry about that.
Try sharing it anyway. Most of the time, you don't need to be a co-host.
It's not working for me right now. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I think I have to be a host to do that.
No, you just need them to enable screen share, whoever the host
Who's
is.
the host?
Who's hosting?
I believe Mirla is hosting, but maybe Ed can also address this.
I think we may be okay now.
There we go. Okay. So these are just some slides that might be helpful to lead the discussion. I think, do you see this opening slide that says climate change in agriculture?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to try to give a quick overview. I know you have a busy agenda of agriculture's impact on climate change and what can be done about that, and then how we can accelerate that change through the Farm Bill and the Inflation Reduction Act. And the reason I give some background to this is because everybody knows that smokestacks and refineries and power plants releasing or burning fossil fuel, releasing carbon dioxide contribute to climate change. But few people really recognize that our food system contributes as much to climate change as our transportation system. About a third of climate change comes from our food system. And among other things, that means that even if we are super successful, as I hope we are, in clean energy and clean transportation, if we don't change our food system, we won't achieve our climate goals. We won't achieve clean water. We won't achieve species protection. We won't achieve worker protection. We won't achieve public health as well, but we certainly won't achieve our climate goals. But again, as I said, most don't understand that. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit. It's not too basic. One element that's really important to understand is agriculture uses most of our land, and land use has an enormous climate impact. If you look at if you ever think when you travel, you look out the window, most of what you see is agriculture. The extraordinary part about this is, as you see on this map here, the largest land use in the US is grazing for cattle. it is an extraordinarily inefficient use of land, and most of that land, unfortunately, or much of that land is overgrazed, not storing much carbon, not providing much habitat, and certainly contributing to soil erosion and other pollution. And you see another big part of this is livestock feed, because it takes a lot of animal feed to grow, to feed livestock. So, and we'll see in a moment why that makes a difference. But industrial agriculture is, as I mentioned, the largest driver of many of the things we all care about. It's one of the largest drivers of water pollution. It is because it uses all that land. It is what is driving biodiversity loss, whether it be the wolves that we work to protect, or the grizzly bears, or the sage grouse, or much smaller critters that are just living in little streams. We also may think about toxic chemicals, and you may think of all these sort of, again, an industrial factory, but actually most of us get most of our toxic chemicals through our food that comes from intentionally placed chemicals, pesticide residues and food packaging residues. It's really an extraordinary system that is meant to provide nutrition to us, but actually makes us sicker than smoking. And on climate change, what we don't realize is that agriculture, although there's some burning of fossil fuels for like tractors and fans at factory farms and irrigation, most of it the impact comes from three other sources: methane, nitrous oxide, and the conversion of soil. What is methane? You may read about it that the oil and gas system releases a lot of methane. It's a greenhouse gas 85 times stronger than carbon dioxide over 20 years. But actually, cows and their manure, and pigs would also to some extent, and others, animal agriculture produces more methane than the entire oil and gas sector. And that's because every time cows breathe out, their guts are different than yours and mine. They exhale methane. And those vast amounts of manure we produce about our land animals that we're growing for food produce about 50 times more food, more manure, more waste than humans. But human waste is treated in a sewage treatment plant. Animal waste is often just placed in big pits, and there it sort of festers and releases a tremendous amount of methane. In addition, nitrous oxide, and a gas that is about 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide, and that is released by those hundreds and hundreds of millions of acres of farmland, much of which get more nitrogen fertilizer than the plants can take up. And that nitrogen fertilizer that the plants don't take up goes somewhere. Some of it runs off into the rivers, and you've heard of the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, or harmful algae outbreaks in waters all around the country. Some of it gets into the groundwater, and you might have heard of blue baby syndrome from contaminated groundwater. And some of it goes into the atmosphere as nitrous oxide. And agriculture is responsible for about 3/4 of the nitrous oxide released in this country. And then the last way agriculture contributes to climate change is through the conversion of the ground itself. Healthy soil, natural trees, natural forests, natural grasslands is a really wonderful carbon sequestering, carbon storing entity. It's alive. And that live soil, those plants hold a tremendous amount of carbon. But when you dig them up and you convert it to land for cattle overgrazing, or for corn or soybeans or wheat, you release all that carbon into the atmosphere. And not only that, once that land is converted, say the land that was made into farmland 100 years ago, instead of storing carbon the way a healthy forest does, or the way a healthy grassland does, it's just basically dead. It has very little biological life. So you both lose the carbon at first, and you lose the ability of the land to keep storing that carbon. And so as you add all that up, agriculture, as I said, contributes as much to climate change as our transportation system. And we're not going to get anything close to a stable climate unless we address climate change. Also, though, and this is sort of in a funny way, a political benefit, climate change affects agriculture more than almost any other activity, because of course, agriculture is very dependent on weather. And we talked earlier in the introduction to this call, extreme weather, both cold and hot, is part of climate change, climate weirding. You also, though, get different patterns, and agriculture really depends on patterns of stable climate, and people plant things in a certain area because that is what grows in that area over hundreds of years. And even without the extreme weather, you're seeing patterns change and crops really suffering. You also have far more weeds and diseases that are coming. I also manage some farms, and I can promise you, we're seeing not only different weather patterns, we're seeing hotter huts and more floods and droughts, and we're seeing pests and fungus and insects that we never saw before. And those unfortunately have to be dealt with, and you often manage them with chemicals, and that either costs money or has environmental harm. So agriculture both contributes enormously to climate change and is at risk because of climate change. The good news, though, is that it doesn't have to be this way. Often industrial agriculture proponents will tell you that we need this sort of chemical-soaked industrial agriculture to, quote, feed the world. But that's really not true. There are a lot of proven tech practices that can be very productive, and that also will have much greater resistance to floods and to droughts, will store more carbon. At the introduction, we talked about the trees. Trees are great. And here's just an example. If you move from an annual crop to a perennial crop, or you add some trees to your pasture land or intermix trees with cropland, you get great climate benefits. This picture here shows the difference in root mass between a plant that grows all the time and a plant that is just planted in the spring and harvested in the fall. So all of that additional root mass that you see is additional carbon, but it also is additional resilience to floods, to droughts, to heats, to fires, to almost anything. And there's lots of these practices. They can be done for crops. They can change which crops you're growing. They can be done for animal agriculture, whole ranges of practices. And many of these have been proven mostly by farmers just trying to do the right thing themselves. But policy hasn't really supported these. So as a result, these practices are used on only a small portion of American cropland. It is policy that we need to accelerate adoption of these practices from 2 or 3% of American land to ideally it'd be 90% of American land. And so how do we get there? We're not going to talk today about environmental laws, although those we need to change as well. And for example, much of this happens on federal land. So federal land management laws can make a difference. One of the biggest unfortunate programs is the renewable fuel standard, which has incentivized, growing corn and soybean for ethanol and biodiesel. It's a terrible idea from a climate perspective, as well as from almost any other perspective, except maybe politics. But today, just to quickly focus on the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill started in the Depression, in the Dust Bowl, and that together got the federal government to try to create a sort of a farm safety net and a food safety net. So you may have heard of the SNAP program, formerly food stamps. The Farm Bill, about 3/4 of the money of the Farm Bill goes to food stamps, to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which feeds about 45 million people every year. But about 1/4 of the Farm Bill goes to farmers. And these conservation programs will pay farmers to sometimes do good things, and those are the ones we want to change, and sometimes, no, to pay them to do good things like conservation measures, which is great, but sometimes they also create incentives for farmers to continue bad practices. So we are hopeful, and we've been lobbying for the Farm Bill to better target the conservation programs and increase funding for the conservation programs to make climate change a real priority. One of the great opportunities here, and what I hope you will lobby on, is the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the first time Congress ever acknowledged that agriculture contributes to climate change. And while you probably heard a lot of Inflation Reduction Act about energy, $20 billion of the Inflation Reduction Act is directed at agriculture, conservation programs. And the key is, this is for conservation practices that can only be used to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So it's the first time Congress recognized, as I said, agriculture's contribution to climate change and did something about it. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act is done. However, many in Congress want to essentially steal that $20 billion and put it to other purposes. So I hope you will be telling your members of Congress, keep the Inflation Reduction Act's climate-friendly agriculture money exactly where it is. Keep it focused on climate-focused conservation practices. Don't let it go to commodity subsidies just to make peanut farmers paid a little more. Don't let it go to other conservation programs, which may be good, but they're not climate-focused where we need to be. And so that is really the opportunity we have right now. As you may know, the Farm Bill is supposed to be reauthorized every 5 years. It was supposed to be reauthorized last year. Congress couldn't get their act together, so they punted and gave it a 1-year extension to September 2024. And they're talking about trying to get it out this spring. Of course, with other things and the funding shutdown and the mess up there, it may not happen till next year, but we got to still keep talking about it. So again, if you're going up on the Hill, the things to talk about are keep the Inflation Reduction Act, $20 billion where they are on the climate-focused conservation programs. And second, ensure that we have a climate-focused farm bill that is strong, that targets our conservation programs to climate-friendly practices, is well-funded for climate research, all those practices I told you about. Let's study them more. Let's develop them more. Huge payback on agricultural research, and make sure we all do this with a big equity angle. And so that's my quick summary.
Thank you very much, Peter. That was a great summary, very clear. And I'm glad that you went back and summarized it up at the end, so we know exactly where we're headed, what the best priorities are. Thank you so much. So Phyllis.
My pleasure.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. So Phyllis, you're going to talk about
we're going to be lobbying on 2 other topics, on wildlife and environmental justice. The Recovering America's Wildlife Act, which in the Senate is number 1149, will be providing funding to restore habitat, help wildlife at risk, safeguard habitats, biodiversity, and slow extinction rates, and protect human communities by securing a brighter future for people and nature. It'll send $1.3 billion directly to states and tribes. The bill passed in the House in the 117th Congress, and it had bipartisan support in the Senate, but it was derailed by concern about how we were going to pay for it. So once again, we are asking our senators to pass the Recovering America's Wildlife Act. This act is supported by the Nature Conservancy and the National Wildlife Federation. If it is passed into law, the law will be the largest investment in the U.S. wildlife conservation in decades. So I'm sure you can see why we're supporting it. The other bill that we're supporting is the A. Donald McEachin Environmental Justice for All Act. This is named for the representative who introduced it first and who is no longer with us. This bill establishes several environmental justice requirements, advisory bodies and programs to address the disproportionate adverse human health and environmental effects of federal laws and programs of communities of color, low-income communities, and tribal or indigenous communities. Why do we need EJ or environmental justice? Because 68% of African Americans live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant, the zone of maximum exposure to pollutants. They are exposed to a higher rate of to poor air quality and potentially polluted water than in any other communities. 71% of African Americans live in counties that are in violation of federal and air pollution standards, as well as compared to 58% of non-Hispanic whites. That's why we as Jews feel we need to be fighting for environmental justice, because it's part of what we believe in. So those are the two other issues, and we have a lot to be lobbying on extremely important issues. So thank you, Peter, for helping us out so well. And now I'm going to turn the program back to Devorah.
Thank you, Phyllis. That was a great summary on those two bills, very succinct. And so we can move on. Our third legislative speaker is Jamie DeMarco from the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. And he will speak on the importance in general of our lobbying efforts and what an impact they make, and why we must continue in spite of disappointments that things don't pass. Hi, Jamie. Good to see you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
Let me just give people a little bit of your bio. He's a graduate in chemistry and environmental science from Warren Wilson College outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And he's worked with the Friends Committee, Citizens Climate Lobby, and now is the Federal and Maryland Policy Director at the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. Jamie, thank you very much for coming back.
Thanks so much. And it's incredible to see 100 people on this call today. It's, you know, you could have been doing anything else, but you're here getting ready to lobby the Hill for a really important issue. And there's nothing more important than going to see your lawmaker in person as a constituent to make the case for the policy you would like to see them enact. There's you know, a tier of actions that can be taken to influence the lawmaker, and sort of at the bottom, it's still important, but at the bottom is like an online petition. Then above that, you know, a physical letter. Above that is a phone call. And at the very top is an in-person meeting. Lawmakers are asked to be experts on everything, and that's impossible. And they rely on outside testimonials, and particularly constituent testimonials, to have a complete and thorough understanding of the world and what policies they should support. And things can get so complicated. You know, I learned a lot just on this call about animal agriculture, but the policies we're asking them to be expert on can be convoluted, detailed, and hard to understand. And you know, as citizen constituent lobbyists are not expected to be the policy expert. If you are, you're amazing, you're a superhero, but you are not required to be. You are just there to share your personal testimony, which can cut through all of the confusion. Just layers and layers of complexity can melt away with a single personal story. These lawmakers and their staff are having back-to-back meetings all day, every day, day after day. And when they go to sleep at night, what we want them to be remembering is like, wow, that person who came and talked to me, like, that really struck me. That really made me think about the world in a new way. And I'm going to show up tomorrow and remember that. Because these are people, like, you know, all people are human beings, and human beings remember stories far better than we can remember stats or figures. And there's been, you know, I've seen lots of transformations from nothing seems to be able to move a lawmaker on a particular issue, or it's an issue that goes against their party, and so they don't want to move. And then there's a very compelling meeting with their constituents. And we've seen, even in Congress, even in the US Senate, deals come together because of constituent lobbying. This is so important for the bills that we're advocating on. You know, it doesn't seem like a lot is happening in Congress and a divided Congress, but there's always a lot happening. The budget is being passed in one way or another. And as we just heard, the farm bill is going to get passed in one way or another. And these are going to be lasting climate impacts from both of those priority legislations that we know are going to get enacted this year. And so I encourage everyone to think about how you are being affected in your life, either through extreme weather events or the benefits of clean energy, whether that's, you know, you're loving your induction stove or your electric vehicle, or you know someone who got a job. installing solar panels, something personal to tie it to you that is going to make you more than just another statistic, because there's lots of lobbyists roaming the halls of Congress, but what you can bring that none of them are going to be able to bring is to say, I am your constituent. Like, you need my votes and the votes of my peers in order to be elected. Obviously, you won't say that because this is, a friendly meeting. But I am your constituent, and this is my story, and you can't challenge it because this is my truth that I am sharing with you. And this is why I hope that you'll support specific legislation. And as someone who spends, all day trying to get lawmakers to do things or not do certain things, I can say there's nothing more powerful than that.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. That's very telling. And it's backed up by science.
Mhm.
There are definitely studies that say that what we are doing is exactly what works the most powerfully.
And
Pardon?
the one other part I meant to add is that even, there's a gradient of support and opposition. A lot of times people say, my lawmaker is already supportive, I don't know why I would talk to them, or my lawmaker is opposed, I don't know why I would talk to them. But there's a gradient of both. At the very bottom of the rung is so vehemently oppositional, they talk about it everywhere they go, how much they hate it. And a rung above that is they hate it so much that when it comes up, they talk about how much they hate it, but they don't bring it up otherwise. And the difference, even just between those two rungs, is significant. And a meeting that brings someone from that bottom rung up one more to a slightly better, less oppositional position is important. And they go all the way up, all the way to neutral. And then beyond that, someone can support a bill, but never talk about it, or support a bill and not understand it, or support a bill and behind closed doors kind of say, like, yeah, I said I would support that, but really I don't really get it, or I don't think we should do that. And you can move them up to be a champion who talks about it and advocates for it behind closed doors and publicly, all the way to someone who makes it their sort of like life passion to get the specific legislation through. So wherever your elected official is, a meeting is valuable and can move them from one slot to another.
And never discount the staffers, because it's
Mhm.
staffers who are doing the research and the work, the back work. And Jamie Raskin tells us all the time, thank you, and his staffers say, thanks for flagging this. We didn't, it fell off the plate. We've got too much on the plate and it fell off the plate and we weren't paying attention. So thank you so much for flagging particular priorities. So thanks so much, Jamie, for inspiring us in the work what we're working on tonight. I want to thank all of our speakers tonight. Terrific info and succinct and great summaries of the work that we're going to be doing in our lobby day next week. So now I want to turn the floor over to Rabbi Melanie Aaron, who is the Rabbi Emerita of Congregation Shir Hadash in Los Gatos, California, where she was the rabbi for 30 years. She's now a resident of Washington, D.C. Melanie has joined the Jewish Earth Alliance Steering Committee and is the co-chair with Phyllis Blumberg of our virtual lobby day. And she will apprise us of some pointers for lobbying and give us a brief review of how things will work on January 25th before we break into rooms of the states. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie.
All right. Well, thank you. And I will try to continue this being succinct, but I want to also continue thanking all of you for being here with us, because it's very important. What you're doing is really amazing and will make a big difference. We want to thank our volunteer lobbyists, who now number over 245. We have state leads, and I see you all here tonight, which is just wonderful. And many, many co-sponsors, in addition to our steering committee, which does the work of the JEA week after week and day after day. What is going to happen on our Tu Bishvat Virtual Lobby Day on January 25th? We want to assure you, you will be prepared and you can do this. What are we going to do? We're going to thank our allies and offer support. And that is important. Even people who are leaders in this area need to be able to say that their constituents care And the stories we tell about why this matters to us will stick with them. We are also going to be recruiting new co-sponsors for legislation. We're going to be informing staff sometimes of upcoming legislation. Sometimes we talk to the staff and they say, thank you, you provided us with new information. And finally, if you're speaking to an unsupportive senator, that can still make a difference because they need to know that there are environmental activists in their state, and you can move them from being so opposed to thinking about it a little bit, and we hope that will make a difference. How do we do this? We are prepared, we know our parts, we're familiar with the legislation, we provided information this evening. All of our webinars are on our website, so you can find them and watch earlier recordings as well. In addition, in the talking points, which I will show you in just a few moments, there are links to other materials if you want to read up more. Please be polite. If they ask you something that you don't know the answer to, don't worry about it. Just offer to provide the information and get back to them. We want a friendly meeting, whether we're meeting with supportive or unsupportive senators. Be prompt, arrive at the Zoom a little bit early, and remember that we only usually have a half an hour, which is really not very long. So we want to make our points as quickly as possible and move through everything that we hope to cover. You will be equipped for success. You'll have the information from this webinar. You'll have the talking points. This evening, you're going to meet with your state delegation so that you can figure out who's going to do what at the meeting, who's going to speak to our issues, maybe offer a prayer. You're going to assign someone to be a timekeeper, a note taker, someone to take the photograph for the screenshot, which we continue to use. Our leads are masters of ceremony, and they will be reporting back on these meetings. We gather all that information and we continue to use it. The things that will be available to you, we will get you an update of the list of participants from your state. The leads received those we had so far last night, but there continue to be more. You'll get the time of your appointment and a Zoom link for your appointment. There are a few offices that don't have Zoom links, so that if you have a Zoom link that can be shared and you're willing to share it, we would appreciate your letting Lou know or letting me know. I also want to show you something else, and that is over here, hopefully. And that is our Tu Bishvat participant material folder. It has a place to put your screenshot. It has a place to do your meeting report. We have a master doc that has all the appointments, the leads, and so forth, and the talking points document, which is very, very informative, and I encourage everyone to read it. Just for a second, I'm going to show you an earlier version of the master doc, but you'll see it has the state, it has the schedule. If we have the link already, it has the lead and has the participants. So let me go back for a minute to my PowerPoint. So we believe that we will be able to provide you with everything you need, and the link to that folder will be in the chat. Remember, you'll find there everything you need, where to upload the screenshots, the leaders report, but more important, the talking points and the master schedule, which will have the day, time, Zoom link, and all the information you need. One other thing that I wanted to mention is sometimes when we come in and we identify ourselves as the Jewish Earth Alliance, your senator may ask you something about Israel if it's on their mind. Or perhaps you want to thank your senator about something unrelated to the environment, or berate your senator for something they've done lately that you don't appreciate. Please don't do that at your meeting with us. Because we ask you to focus only on environmental issues. We can't represent our co-sponsors on issues that we haven't worked with them on. So call your senator, write your senator on any of the issues that are important to you. But while you're there on Tu Bishvat, please focus on our environmental issues only. And finally, I want to say, we thank you. the earth thanks you, and the future generations, which are important to all of us, they thank you as well. So at this point, what we would like to do now is break into our state groups. After that, we'll all come back together, and Phyllis and I will remain on the webinar if people have any kinds of questions that we haven't been able to answer in the chat. So now I'm going to hand it over to Ed, who is going to post the links for us to go to the state in which you live, the state in which you're going to lobby. And our leads, I went down the list and our leads are here. So leads, you'll know what to do when you get to your group meeting. Ed, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm going to open all 23 rooms. We're talking about 23 states. It's really incredible. Depending on the layout of your device, somewhere on there, you'll be invited to choose the breakout group that you want to attend, and that'll be identified by your state. I'm going to remain here in the main meeting, and if you have any difficulties, either reach out in the chat or you may come back here. So let's give it a shot. People are successfully joining.
I have no idea where I'm going.
So look for your state, the state that you live in, and click on that group.
Where do I look?
It should be, depending on your device, it's probably on a line of options down at the bottom. It may be under more, and it will say breakout.
Or it says join a breakout group. Join a breakout group. Click on that.
I see it. Okay.
I am on an iPad and I am not seeing where to join.
I am on an iPhone and I'm not seeing it where to join.
Okay,
you see,
it's on the more.
Okay, I clicked more and it says
breakout groups, and you need to hit that, and then it'll show you the choice, and then you can hit the one you want to go to.
There's no choice showing on my iPad either.
On the iPad.
Let me just ask you, do you see icons for things like participants, share screen, whiteboard, any of that?
Whiteboard, yes.
Well,
participants
somewhere in that area, there should be either under more or somewhere else a link for.
Yeah, there is. Can you do it on your end? Can you assign me?
Yes, why don't you tell me who you are and where you'd like to go?
Barack Gale, Washington.
Okay, thank you for asking that.
And can you repost, because I wasn't able to get in until just this minute, and so whatever's in the chat that I'm supposed to use is not showing up in my chat because when you join.
Barack, I just want to confirm, you said Washington?
Yes.
If you could, after your name, put your state, it will make it easier for Ed. You know how to change your name. Just put your name and your state.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm Susan in California.
I'm sorry, who is it?
Susan Desmond in California.
Okay.
I'm Sherry Panofka in Georgia. I don't see any link either.
Okay, Sherry, I'll take care of that in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an Oregon group?
We do.
I'm on also an Android phone, and
what is your name?
Adele Thompson.
Yes, and you want to be in Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go.
Tully Perlman in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I'll do that.
Lori, hang in there. We'll talk afterwards. Your state is an exception.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, Carol Kurtzman in California.
Great.
Okay, great.
Maury Edelman in California.
Okay.
It looks like Nadine is California as well.
Yes, yes. Lori, Lou, or Maggie, are you there? And do you need help?
Yeah, this is Lou Weiss, Indiana. I guess we don't have anything here. I don't see anything.
No, there is
Yeah,
no Indiana.
hang in with us. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, let's just get everybody where they need to be.
Lori Franklin, do you need to go somewhere?
No, she's
No, I'm just gonna stay right here.
Okay.
We're gonna talk. Lori and Lou and I have a special situation. Honey, you're supposed to be in Virginia. Okay, good. You got there.
Melanie, when do you want to have the groups close?
Why don't we give them till 5 after 9 because it took a few minutes for people to get where they needed to be.
Okay, great.
Hi, this is Maggie Freed, and I'm on an iPhone, and I don't know what to push.
What state are you?
What state do you need to go to?
California.
Okay, taken care of.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the situation for Lou and Lori is that though I've written to a bunch of rabbis in your states, you two are the only ones right now who've signed up from your state. It doesn't mean that we can't pursue this, but we find it's more effective in asking for an appointment if we can name 3 people in the state. So the question is, do you think each of you could find a couple of more people anywhere in your state and get them to sign up? And as soon as they signed up, we can ask for an appointment.
Oh, you're going to actually make the appointments? We don't do it ourselves? Because
You don't have to do it yourself this time. We have a wonderful intern who's been working away at this.
Okay, sure. I have a couple of people to recruit. I was just late to the dance, so I wasn't able to recruit them before I was the meeting this evening.
Okay, so that's great. So recruit them, get them to sign in so that they appear to us, and then we'll start the process. In fact, I'll probably have Lou start the process because it sounds like you're pretty confident.
Oh, I am. And also, is it that bit.ly Tu Bishvat 2024 address where they sign in?
Yeah, the bit.ly/Tu Bishvat 2024. Lou Weiss, you're in Indiana.
Excuse me, Melanie, for a moment. Melissa, do you need any help or are you good here?
Sorry. I'm sorry to say that I got here late.
What state are you with?
What group?
What state?
State? California.
Yes. Okay, there's a California group and I'll have you join them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Sorry, Melanie.
So Lou Weiss, I got a note from somebody else in Indiana, one of the rabbis, I have to go looking for it, who promised people, I don't know if you're one of those people or if we can expect a few more people. Do you know anything about that? Are you a member of a Reformed congregation?
Yeah, I'm a member of IHC, Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation.
Okay, so that's where I got the
I'm sure there are people there who are interested, and I can talk to the rabbis there. And also, we're members of Beth El Tzedek, which is a conservative Reconstructionist congregation.
Right, last time, Rabbi Sandy Sasso joined us, but I understand she's retired and doing all kinds of other things right now.
Yeah, both of them are retired, Dennis and Sandy. But I can talk to them and see if they. Yeah, I can talk to the current rabbi at Beth El Tzedek, and also we're kind of members of Beth Shalom, which is a newer Reform congregation. So there's a number of options that we have, and I can also bring it up.
Great.
I can send it out to the board of rabbis.
Well, the other thing is if you just know 3 people who care about environmental issues and write them directly, sometimes it's good if the rabbi puts it in the newsletter and so forth, but sometimes, and we don't have that much time left, just asking somebody that you know can have a big impact.
I'll work on it.
Okay, good. And I will have Lou, who's our intern, work on setting up appointments for Indiana, because we did have appointments in the past with Indiana. So we can work on that.
Well, both of our senators are pretty conservative Republicans, but there's possibilities. I mean, you never know.
Right, and especially on the restoring wildlife, because it brings money to the state, you can get more sympathy on that one.
Yeah, actually, one of our senators, I think, is who's our other senator? I forget. I'm blocking out his name right now, purposely probably. But he's a little bit more open, I think, on these issues, and he did support something about a national park. So he might
Okay.
be more open to it than the other senator.
And also mention hunting.
Yeah, that's a big thing in Indiana.
It is in Montana, and
Yeah.
hunters are big environmental coalition people here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they should be.
Yeah. No, and we were despairing in Florida, but we found something. Marco Rubio had said something positive on environmental issues. So even the most difficult senators, sometimes you can find a way to speak with them. If you look
There's
in their
possibilities, yeah.
Rachel, what can we do for you?
Well, I volunteered to be the leader, but I had one problem, and that was I'm traveling back from a business conference on the 25th. And so
Right, but there were some other people from Connecticut. Did they come tonight?
No.
No, okay. I will talk with you offline and we'll figure out whether those people can either cover the meetings. I know Lou was trying to change one of them to make it accommodate your schedule, and she had a migraine today, so I don't know what the outcome of that was. But I'm writing myself a note right now that I need to be in touch with you and we need to figure it out. Connecticut wasn't a huge, we don't have a huge contingent, but we do have other people. So maybe one of them can cover the meeting that's on the 25th and the other meeting can be not on the 25th.
Right. I mean, I could get probably 10. Last year I got 13 people from CHJ, from my congregation, to show up. They won't show up
Could one of
unless
them take the lead on the 25th when you're not available?
they're not going to do it. No.
Oh, okay.
But like they'll march. If I say, let's all march, they'll march, but they will not lead. So that's why I was hoping we could change it, because I could probably get a group. I mean, I'll try anyway. I'll try to get a group. But like last year we had, you know, a practice meeting, we assigned roles, we did all that. And since nobody showed up, I mean, I've announced it in our usual communications, but nobody showed up. So I don't really know. Maybe this is just not our year at CHJ to be involved. If you know, I totally understand you have it scheduled already. If you just want the other people, I think there's like 3 or 4 others, that's fine. But it was mostly CHJ for the past 2 years. So that's why I thought, I wish, you know, we could have scheduled it for, you know, when I could have
Yeah, we have a rabbi here in Washington who's retired, but he's from Connecticut. I wonder if he would feel it was legit to be the lead, even if he doesn't have to say, I'm now from Connecticut. I was the rabbi for many years in Connecticut or something. We'll see.
So you don't think we can change the date? You want it definitely
one of the dates she was having some success changing, but one of the dates, and I forget which one was which, they were like, this is it. We offered you a date. If you don't want it, that's tough. So we don't want to lose the date.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just wait to hear from you then.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Rachel.
All right. Sure.
And Melanie?
Yeah.
Have you haven't heard anything from anybody from Beth Shalom in Bloomington? Because they're very active in environmental things. I don't know who their rabbi is because their rabbi was retiring, and I don't know if they've hired a new one, but Beth Shalom in Bloomington is a very active congregation. Small
that makes sense with the college community there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that lead, and I will follow up on that. Thank you.
Sure.
Melanie, let me ask Kimberly Robbins if she needs help with anything.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I was a state lead for Kentucky, and we just finished up our breakout room. So back a few minutes early.
Everyone should be back, you know, within the next 5 minutes or so. Yeah.
I have a question, which is, this is about the scheduling of the appointments with my 2 state senators. The 2 people that I have in mind have, and I also have limitations to our schedules. How are you doing that?
Mainly, we're going with the limitations of the Senate offices. They're not infinitely flexible. But if you send me an email now and say, I absolutely can't do it unless it's afternoon, we will push for an afternoon session.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
Send me something and encourage those other 2 people to send something saying when they're available.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Judy. Are you just back from the end of your group?
Oh.
Disappeared. Okay.
In and out. Mirla, are you feeling better, I hope?
All right. So Mirla, we may have acquired 2 new states,
Oh,
Montana and Indiana. So we've got 2 activists working to recruit us a few more people, and we'll see if we can get some appointments going.
I thought you meant Puerto Rico and Guam.
That would be
Well,
great.
I would like Washington, D.C. to be a state, but
Washington, D.C., I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
really.
And why not American Samoa?
yeah. It was a big shock, to leave California where we were a state and come to Washington where everyone says, contact your Congress people, and there are no Congress people. So, all right, Barack, how did your meeting go?
Well, great. I was wonderful meeting Israel and finding out that he was from Kojo, but I don't know where everybody else is.
Okay, you have a list from, I think Lou sent you a list last night. Yeah. So I would just send them all a note.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We tried to spare everybody an extra meeting, but it may take a little bit of chasing down cats to get them all going. All right. So everyone will come back in a couple of minutes, and then Rabbi Dvorah will charge us to go forward strongly. And if people have questions between now and the 25th, we have a little time. We don't have all the appointments confirmed, and Lou had a migraine today, so even the ones that we got today aren't on the schedule yet, but they will be. And it's pretty standard for us to be scrambling the last couple of days with appointments. They don't want to commit ahead. They don't know what their schedules are like, and it just takes calling and calling.
I was actually surprised that we got an appointment on Tu Bishvat. I mean, usually it's not up to the constituents when you get the appointment.
Right. Yep. But being able to do it.
Wonderful event, wonderful speakers. I've heard a lot of regenerative ag presentations, and this is really great. And great hearing Jamie, what Chesapeake Climate Action Network does is
Jamie
really awesome.
That this all has meaning, and that's really important. I see a familiar face. This is great. Everybody's coming back. So I hope the state meetings were useful and you have a better sense of what's going to happen on the 25th. Good. And the leads got a chance to meet at least some of the people who are in their groups. So that's useful also. Got some nice background reminders of, we are a consortium of many organizations. Big organizations like the Reform Movement, the Conservative Movement, the Reconstructionist Movement, the Progressive Orthodox, but also individual organizations in different communities. And we appreciate everybody's support.
Melanie, nobody in my group got the lobby day outline, with all the information and what's supposed to be said.
So I hope everyone is going home with the link to that folder where they can go to and get everything they need, including those talking points. And Amy has just put it again in the chat, so everybody can click on it, make sure it opens for you, and in there you will see the talking points.
And it's not only the talking points, it's also the agenda, which says, and that's what we did in our small group. We went through the agenda and assigned people to the different parts and the particular bill.
Right. And there's great information at the end. If you want to read more, get a little more background, there's some great links at the end.
This is Rachel. I'm 85 years old. I think I'm probably the oldest one here. I tried to copy the link. I won't know whether I can pull it up until after.
Usually if you click on it and then copy it, that should work. click on it and actually get it in your browser, because that's what I'm doing. Because sometimes they.
All right, I'll try that, but if I really louse up, who do I ask to send me this thing?
Okay, I wrote down your name and I will send it to you, whether you succeed or not, you'll have that.
Oh, God bless you, Rabbi. I mean, it makes me so nervous, because I'm trying, but that I'm very slow. It's not that I'm not trying, believe me.
Can you email that link to us? Because I have no way to keep that. Can you email the link to everyone in this meeting?
We can. You can go into the chat though while the meeting is happening.
Yeah, well.
And you can just press on it, but yes.
Yes, I can do
send it
that.
out.
Yes, in July, you send it to everybody by email.
We'll send it to you as well after this meeting, not
Can
tomorrow.
I give a point of information? It's easier than typing. Like most people, if they're not tech savvy. If you look, the 85-year-old woman, are you on a computer or whatever? You're in.
Yes, I am. I'm on a computer, but.
You may not see it. If you click on the, listen to me 1 second. If you click on it while we're in it, it will open itself automatically on your browser. And when you move the Zoom.
Isn't the Zoom on my browser? Won't the Zoom go?
No, you won't lose the Zoom. It can do both at the same time. It's
all right.
multitasking. So then if you, you'll.
But it will go away when the meeting goes away.
It just says
I feel great sympathy because I'm always asking my children to help me with various things.
I just did that and it didn't work.
Okay, Karen has a question. Let's take that and then.
Hi there. Good luck with the link. I'm sure we'll all be fine. Karen Lewis, I'm in Illinois, and when we look at our spreadsheet for our 2 representatives, we don't have anything scheduled, and it says under one of the reps, Dick Durbin, help, we don't know who to contact. So we're trying to decide if you're wanting us to take the lead on this, also with Tammy Duckworth, nothing's really happened, or if you want us to provide information in that spreadsheet and someone from JEA is going to do the ask.
So
who's in control, basically?
We will continue to pursue them. If you have a name of someone that you've worked with in their office before and can send it to us, that would be very useful.
So do you just want us to put do you have something into the spreadsheet or send an email?
I don't think you can enter things into the spreadsheet. Okay. I think it's closed. So I think you just need to send me an email or send one of us an email with that information. But thank you.
Rabbi Bob Schloss and Phyllis Lefebvre have their hands up.
Thank you. Bob?
All right.
For people who have link anxiety, remember that your state lead is going to send you an email when the specific times of our meetings are set. And they will include that link one more time in that email. It's likely to come 2 days before Tu Bishvat. So you'll get it that way.
Unfortunately, we wish we had all the appointments set, but now that we've done this, this is the 3rd time, we know that we're chasing after people up until the last minute to get commitments. So yes, there will be appointments, but they're not set yet. Phyllis.
Hi, thank you, Rabbi. My question is that we were told we have an appointment with Senator Tillis. Is it with Senator Tillis or is it with an aide? So one of my members who, we have lobbied our members before, so he kept asking, I don't know, who we're meeting with. It just says our senator, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, I don't know that offhand, but I've written it down and I will get back to you.
Okay, and then we don't have a meeting with the other senator yet, so we're still waiting on that. Is that my understanding?
That's exactly.
And I will also, since you haven't, I will also do a little background as well. If our senator is a co-sponsor on the Recovering America's Wildlife Act, and the other 2 bills are going to be part of the Farm Bill, does that mean we are limited? Should we just go ahead and do the?
I mean, you should thank him for co-sponsoring because that's part of what a building.
Absolutely. Thank you. It gave me an easy appreciation. We had that done.
Right.
Tillis is the champion. You need to profusely thank him and his staff. He's the champion in the Republican
part of the Senate.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go with Cameron, who's been waiting in the corner. And then if you can put your hand up mechanically, through the computer. Otherwise, honey, you're next after Cameron.
Okay.
Okay. So we also have, one meeting scheduled and one not. The expectation that I had put out to folks was a half an hour meeting. That's the commitment that we've been asked to do on Thursday. But if we have 2 senators, it's basically 2 half-hour meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, it depends a little bit on your state. So your state doesn't have a huge number. So yes, if you're California or New York or Florida, you can divide up if you want to do half and half. It sort of depends. Jews are very concentrated in this country, and that leads to a certain unevenness.
And then who's scheduling that other meeting?
So we are still working on scheduling that other meeting. If you know somebody in your senator's office, let us know. Otherwise, we'll just keep pursuing them, phone and email.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Honey, you had a question.
Yes, and it's Honey. I know it's strange.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, finally.
Nice to meet you.
It was nice to have that conversation that we had all our emails. But no one showed up in the breakout room. So Fred and I ended up having a great conversation. He's close by you, and you're DC. But so I don't know at this point whether, I sent a note to the other folks in the group, but no one responded and no one evidently showed up. So I'm not sure where I go from here. I kind of need.
I would send them another.
I don't want to say that I'm, schizophrenic or
no, they'll
multiple
show
personalities.
they'll show. People have been good about showing. So I would send them a note saying that you are the lead, you're trying to organize your state. Do they want a speaking part? Would they consider taking the screenshot? That's something that some people know how to do. And
right. Well, I can do that, but I have no guarantee that that anyone is going to participate. But I'll deal with that. We'll deal with it.
Okay, we can also give you phone numbers if you're willing to be really persistent. So,
well, if people either want to do it or they don't, I'm not going to, we're all grown-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. But hopefully they wouldn't have signed up if they didn't want to do it.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, honey.
Okay.
All right. We have somebody who doesn't look like Barbara Ann, but with a hand up. Yes.
That's me.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm 90 years old, but I'm not using that as an excuse. All right. I'm not. What I want to know is it's totally confusing to me. All the things on the chat, I have used chat many times, and there are many times you can't get it back. But I would just request that my name be put on the persons to receive the list, either by email or some other way.
Okay, we got it.
Get to this meeting. I had signed up for it a week ago. I received no notice about the meeting. It's just that my calendar told me that there was a meeting. I had not received any information about it.
She's right. I didn't get any Zoom links. I don't think either. I don't think, I went back and I used my original registration. I don't know if I got one more recently, but at any rate.
Okay, we did send a reminder today. So Barbara Ann, I'm a little concerned that it didn't get to you.
No, I didn't get it.
With our tech people to try to figure out what happened to your email. I hope everyone, in addition to being signed up today and present with us, you're also signed up for the lobbying, because that gives us your address and your state and all this other material.
I think I did. I mean, it's just one of the reasons I feel confused. I don't know what I've done, and I don't know what else I need to do.
Okay, I wrote down your name, and we'll double check on it after the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Nadine.
Well, I agree. Actually, I had the same kind of problems, and I even wrote a question. I didn't really get an answer straight. So when I registered for everything, but I'm not sure, I don't know the next step. I mean, I had to go back to my original confirmation to get the Zoom link. So, so for this next thing, I know I signed up for everything, but I've got no way of knowing if you guys, because I even asked and I didn't get an answer.
Okay, I'm not good enough to talk with you and check the spreadsheet, but I wrote down your name.
And then the other thing is, can we, from our leaders, can we get a list, or will it be in the spreadsheet maybe, of everyone's names and phone numbers? Because, for example, California doesn't yet have anything, but if we want to talk to each other, maybe we didn't finish everything we need to do at our organizing meeting. Can we have a way of contacting each other, or a leader, or something?
Okay, so Rabbi Singer, you have a way of connecting everybody in your group.
I have the emails for everybody. I'm just putting one together now. I will say that I also did not get a registration link. So I had to go back and re-register, but whatever, just letting you know, maybe there's some glitch. And
yeah, I just kept getting Zooms that had registration links, but it didn't have a Zoom link, and I already registered. So that's what I'm confused about. Okay, could we also have phone numbers in addition to email? Because
I'm going to send out an email and ask people to share their phone numbers. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, not everybody is always.
We have nothing set up yet either. You know, just I saw that there were efforts made and there's no response, which is annoying, but okay.
All right. Are there any more questions? I see that we need to make sure we send everything out again. We're going to look into the people who mentioned that they were particularly worried about it. I will double check and make sure you're on our lists. I can't see the whole screen, so if you're waving at me, let me just look at everybody all over the place. All right. I think we've covered all the questions.
Rabbi Harriet Portland has her hand up. Harriet in Portland has her hand up.
Right. I haven't, thank you, Ed. And thank you, everybody who's organizing this. It's, you know, it's wonderful. Recently, a number of us in Portland have become very aware of the biomass and the wood pellet just fiasco. There's a wonderful film called Burned about the wood pellet industry, and we're basically sacrificing our forests. It's absurd. And I haven't looked at it. It has been that that our forests have legislation has been under agriculture. So my question is, if I look under the agriculture bill and see what's there, and there's nothing about the baloney, the false solution of biomass and this wood pellet industry, is there some place that I can send, you know, find out whether or not there's any legislation about that, or, you know, just lift up this issue, because it's a huge issue.
So I think what I would suggest is that I've written it down as a possible topic for an upcoming webinar so that we can all learn more about this issue. But I would stick to what we have right now in terms of your lobbying for next week. Any other questions before Rabbi Dvorah sends us forth to do good work?
Do you have any idea of what time, is it all going to be on East Coast time, these meetings, and what time of the day they will be?
So they will not necessarily be on East Coast time. When they're on a different time zone, the master sheet will say Central Time or Pacific Time or whatever, so that you'll know. It depends whether you're talking to somebody in the Washington office, but we're sensitive to the fact that in California, you don't want a 9 a.m. appointment on East Coast time, because that would be kind of difficult. Maxine, it looks like you have your hand up. Oh, but I can't hear you.
Okay, I couldn't join earlier because it said it was full. It was at 100 and I couldn't join. So I just got in a few minutes ago. So I'm in Ohio. I have no clue what was going on. I don't know if anyone else is from Ohio. So are you going to be sending out, is this going to be recorded and I will be able to watch this? Are you sending out?
You can watch it. It will be up on our website.
Okay.
Rabbi Dvorah was with the Ohio people, so maybe let her say.
I didn't know. I wasn't. I'm sorry, I wasn't, because Joanne was.
Oh,
there.
Joanne Gerson was there. Great.
So she's the person to contact, or she will contact you. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, and Maxine, I'm actually from Ohio.
I know who she is.
Maxine, I'm from Ohio. I'm throwing my email here in the chat.
Okay.
So we actually have an email going between the people that were here already. So I'll add you to that chain. If you want to send me, if you want to add your email, or you can email me if you want.
I have Maxine's email. That's
Oh,
not.
great, Joanne. Thanks.
All right, wonderful.
All
So,
right.
all right, glad we worked that out. So, Rabbi Dvorah, do you want to send us?
Yes, I want to send many thanks to Rabbi Melanie Aaron and Dr. Phyllis Blumberg and Lou Williams, our intern from Swarthmore College, for steering the drive to Lobby Day #1 in 2024. And gratitude to all our participants, our speakers, and all of you who devote this time tonight and January 25th to the sacred work of healing our relationship to planet Earth, to our state leads for their extra time, and to my steering committee, Amy Finkelstein-Dick, for keeping us well informed, Dee Herman, Judy Burlfine, Ed Kopp for tech tonight, and our Facebook webmasters, Vicki Stern and Morgan Long, and Muriel Goldsmith for the final say and her inspiration. So let me end with a few words from Andy Oram, the lead for Massachusetts, as to why we do this. Remember the Lobby Day team. Oh yes, so thank you so much, Lobby team, that you stayed after to take questions. We're holding these meetings on the Jewish holiday called Tu Bishvat, which falls at the time when trees are starting to flower in Israel. It's a natural holiday on which to hang all kinds of environmental concerns, but there's another message in Tu Bishvat. It reminds us that we need to share this fruit with the larger society and keep trees healthy for upcoming generations. We have to restrain ourselves. We can't just greedily consume all our own fruit. The holiday, therefore, anticipates a kind of environmental justice and is a good message for all farmers. May you all find fulfillment from your sacred work on the climate crisis. May you be blessed with, as Krista Tippett says, muscular hope. That hope is a muscle that we have to exercise, and we are exercising that muscle right now. So thank you all for coming. Stay warm.